Many of you asked for it, and I got my hands on one. A brand new 2023 MG HS fully loaded. I'm going to do a review, tell you things I like, tell you things I don't like, take you around the vehicle, and help you understand if it's going to be a good buy or a bad buy. Now, let's first deal with the MG nameplate. Many of you may not be familiar with the MG nameplate, and rightfully so. It only came to our shores late 2022. However, MG has been a brand that has been around since the 1920s. It's a British brand originally, but it has since been bought over by a Chinese brand. Now I know it. Once you hear it's a Chinese brand, many of you may be saying to yourself, this is cheap Chinese garbage. Well, we'll find out here today if this vehicle is a buy, a lease, or a pass completely. Now, as you can see, the vehicle is not a bad looking vehicle. I must give it that. They didn't try too hard. It's a standard run-of-the-mill SUV shape. They didn't go over the top like how Hyundai did with the new Tucson angles and shapes and cutouts. And when it comes to features, they didn't skimp on the features either. This vehicle has tons of features, too much to even get into here. But some of the most notable, it has adaptive cruise control. It has tons of safety features that have lane departure, lane keeper assist, blind spot, cross traffic alert. It can vibrate the steering wheel if you are drifting out of lane. It can even automatically apply the brake if you are getting too close to a vehicle in front. Like I said, tons of features, which is a plus and a minus, because having lots of features is good, but having all those features work seamlessly with each other is a drastically different thing, and this vehicle struggles with that. On the lower half of the front bumper, you can find the MG Pilot sensor. This is what the vehicle uses to look at the road to help with the adaptive cruise control and the collision avoidance system. Now, when it comes to the headlights, I love the headlights. The headlights are actually, it adds to the meanness of the front. Plus it's LED, you have a little strip on top there, and the turn signals are sequential. And they have like individual little dots there. I really love the turn signals. In fact, I love the whole headlight assembly. Now, around to the side, you can see it has power folding mirrors. After all, this vehicle is a fully loaded. It has the indicator repeaters on the side mirrors, and at the bottom you can see a small camera. This is part of the 360 camera view. I'll show you more of that when I get inside the vehicle. Now, around back, you have nothing too fancy, nothing too extravagant. It's just to the point and functional. Dual exhaust tips. You have a third brake light on top, a shark fin antenna, a spoiler, the MG logo, and the HS. Now, the next feature is becoming more and more common on more vehicles, but it's always nice to see, especially on a fully loaded vehicle. And that is a powered liftgate. You press the button, it opens up, and it opens up relatively quickly as well. Now, the argument can be made successfully that you can open and close it faster with your hands, but for a fully loaded vehicle, I will accept the automatic opening and closing. Now, up front, we have a small 1.5 turbocharged engine pushing 160 horsepower and 250 Newton meters of torque. Now, if I didn't know better, because this engine sounds so unrefined up close, I would swear that it took a Isuzu D-Max common rail diesel engine and pushed into the engine bay. Yeah, whether the hood is up or it's down, it always sounds like somebody's cutting lawn next to you. This doesn't sound like a refined gasoline engine. And the other letdown is that it's mated to a 7-speed dual clutch transmission. Now, there are good and bad dual clutch transmissions out there, and this is one of the bad ones. It doesn't seem refined. It seems like a first generation dual clutch transmission. But more on that when I'm in the driving portion of it. But the one good thing is that inside the engine bay has lots of room. So maintenance, you have somebody fixing a vehicle, or even the service department up at Marcy, they won't have a hard time reaching in there and fixing stuff. There's lots of room. It seems like this vehicle platform was built with a bigger engine in mind, but they had this engine there, so they put it in. So now let's take a look at the interior, some of the cool features, because like I said, this vehicle has many cool features. So let's take a look at the interior. Starting with the trunk's cargo space, there's more than enough room for most things most people will be carrying here, whether it be luggage, groceries, clothes, children's toys. There's more than enough room. And yes, the rear seats do fold down. There are also 2 anchor points there that you can anchor stuff on. This rear divider can either be folded in or out, or completely taken out for even more space. Now, getting inside the cabin, you are greeted with a 2-tone interior. It's black at the bottom, white on top, and I must say, you would love the interior of this vehicle. It's well laid out, but more on that later. Here you can see reading lamps, both left and right. Both of them seems to be LEDs, which is always a good sign. Now that yellow incandescent bulb foolishness LEDs straight from the factory, and it's relatively easy to operate like in most other vehicles. Push to turn on, push to turn off. There are 2 charging ports at the rear. Now, given the fact that they didn't state next to the ports if they are fast charging or not, I will assume they are not. They are just standard charging ports. Above that, you can find 2 rear AC vents without any speed control, so you can just tilt left, right, up, down, but no rear AC vent controls in terms of speed. At the front, there's more of the same. It's very comfortable, it's very well put together, very well laid out. I love the interior of this vehicle. However, the glove box, like in most vehicles, is pretty small, pretty small. But at least if you're looking for something, you don't have far to dig, and it's well illuminated with that LED bulb right above it. Next, we have the front seats. Just like the rear seats, they are pretty comfortable, but these give you a kind of racing feel. Just the design of it in a whole is a kind of race, and it has a 2-tone synthetic leather with a kind of suede material, and they are powered. Both driver and passenger seats fully powered. Here you can see I'm playing with it, up, down, front, back, and you can tilt the backrest as well. Everything as you would expect in a vehicle at this price point. Well, a fully loaded vehicle at this price point, fully powered. Coming around to the front, as you can see, like I said, everything is well laid out. And the beautiful thing is I'm shaking this and I'm getting no creaks, no rattles, and everything from your knee up is soft touch material, which means everything your hands will come into contact with, soft to the touch or a velvet feel to the touch. Everything below your knees, hard plastic. As you can see here, hard plastic, soft touch, hard plastic. You all got the general idea. They made sure that everything your hands will come into contact with have a certain premium feel to it. I'm like, is this even a Chinese brand? You can see that they are actually trying. They literally tried. Listen to the air vents, for example. It just has a certain clunk to it. Now the vehicle is brand new. Who knows how it will age a year or 2 from now, but for now, solid feel. As you can see, glass throughout the entire roof. I have seen some manufacturers calling this a panoramic sunroof, some call it a moonroof. Whatever you want to call it, just know the entire roof line is just glass. It looks nice, it gives the vehicle a very airy feel. Unfortunately, I've never owned a vehicle with a glass roof this big, but I love it. The center console, however, not much space, but the plus side is that this can go forward and back. So you can tailor your driving experience to suit you. You want it forward, you pull it forward, you want it back, you push it back, or anywhere in the middle. That's a good touch. Both vanity mirrors, passenger and driver, are illuminated. You just open this, it lights up, you close it, it turns off. Very nice touch, I like it. Here you can see the gear shift lever. Now you can see your hazards are actually down here. Instead of being eye level like most vehicles on the dash, it's actually down here. Here you have other controls like hill descent, auto brake, your 360 camera, your different modes for sport, comfort, normal driving experience. Around back of the steering column, you have your adaptive cruise control stalk, you have your wiper stalk, and you have your lighting control stalk. Plus you have paddle shifters. So you can either leave the vehicle in auto, you can use the paddle shifters, or you can shift the gear lever in Tiptronic mode and push up or down to shift gears. Let's take a look at the gauge cluster. Now once you start the vehicle up, you are greeted with a center display that is large, colored, and magnificent. So it's a mixture between digital and analog. The speed and the tach, analog, but the entire center of the gauge cluster, all digital. Now when you start it up, you see different things telling you blind spot detection system is on, lane change assist system on, and it gives you a run through. Now in my opinion, it's a bit busy. There are too much lights and things on, and yes, there is a low tire pressure warning. It doesn't let you know which tire has a low pressure, it just lets you know a tire has a low pressure issue. So I went to the gas station, I looked at what the recommended PSI was, I inflated all of them. In fact, all of them were at the recommended PSI as a matter of fact, because it's a practically brand new vehicle, and the light never went away. So I just left it. Now I am a big fan of all digital displays, but I'm also a fan of how they implemented digital in the center and analog on either side. It's the best of both worlds. That way if you have a failure, you won't have a total failure. If the screen stops working for whatever reason, you can still see what speed you're going, what RPM the engine is running at. So I like this integration, even though I like all digital displays a bit more. Here you can see the collision avoidance system in action. Well, one of the few times where I actually got it to work. Now this is a very tricky system to test because you have to get another vehicle to stop in front of you suddenly and hope it works. I wasn't really willing to take that risk, or what if it doesn't work? So I drove closer than normal to some vehicles and it worked some of the times. This is one of them. But in theory, the vehicle should be able to stop itself if it detects you're going to slam into the back of someone. Now when it comes to these buttons down here, aside from the volume and the home button in the center, all the other buttons are essentially shortcuts to features that you have to then use the touchscreen to control. This is good and bad. It's good because it's futuristic, but it's bad because if your display goes out, you have no AC. You can't control your AC whatsoever because the display is where your AC controls are located. This vehicle does have dual zone climate control. I'm sure many of you know what that is. It's a feature whereby the passenger and the driver can have different climate settings. One could be at 20, the other could be at 24. Now this vehicle does have navigation built in, but like many other vehicles on the market, manufacturers don't put much effort and thought into the built-in navigation, and like this is useless, completely useless. Just use your Apple CarPlay or your Android Auto, which this vehicle does come equipped with. Use that and mirror your phone. Like I said earlier on in the video, this vehicle has tons of features, but they all don't seamlessly play with each other. For example, you have this touchscreen display, but you can very well find yourself in a menu where there's no back button to return to home. So you now have to leave the interface of the touchscreen display and put your hand down by the button to press the home button to go back to home. Now it's a small nitpick, and I've heard some people say that there is an over-the-air update that fixes most of these problems, but in proper UI design, you do not have the user using multiple forms of interface. Either you're using a touchscreen or using the buttons. Now I won't go into all the features that this head unit has, but you can control everything here, whether it be a lane departure, your collision warning, your pre-braking, everything can be controlled via this head unit. One cool thing I like though is the 360 camera, and not only that, aside from having lines when you're backing up to let you know exactly where the vehicle is going, this is a nice touch, it also has lines to the front. When you turn your indicators on, left or right, it pops up to the front so you know where your steering wheel is going is where the vehicle will be going. You turn your right indicator on, it shows to the right. You turn the left indicator on, it shows to the left. I really love this feature. I think more vehicles need to come with this feature. As a matter of fact, the 360 cameras are so good on this vehicle that if somebody were to back into something or bump into something in a parking lot, they don't deserve to have a license, because it actually lets you know precisely where the vehicle is going, front and back, with the 360 cameras. No MG user deserves a license if they bump into anything. So now let's take the MG HS out on the road and see how it drives, because no matter how comfortable the seats are, no matter how much features a vehicle has, no matter what price point it's at, if the vehicle doesn't drive well, then the whole thing falls down. And unfortunately, the MG HS does have some problems in terms of drivability. Now we're going to take it around the Savannah here, just a leisurely drive. When you're driving like this and you're on the move, it drives really well. The turbo lag is non-existent. Well, you know, I wouldn't say it's non-existent, but it's not really there when you're just driving around the Savannah or you're on the highway and you're at speed. Pressing the Super Sport button changes the needles on the dials from white to red, as you can see here. This is to firmly let you know that you are now into Super Sport racing mode. Is it super sporty? I wouldn't really say so, because when you are driving just normal, you don't notice the turbo lag as much as when you actually want to accelerate. And this is a known driving characteristic of most of these vehicles that claim to have dual clutch transmissions and turbochargers. The Hyundai Tucson ain't no different. It's not as bad as this one, but it ain't no different. You floor it and you have to wait for a ton of turbo lag. I am not a fan of this driving characteristic. I understand smaller engines with turbos for fuel efficiency, but for my driving style, I don't appreciate it at all. Oddly enough, driving uphill, this vehicle really comes alive, and it comes alive for two reasons. It's composed around the corners, and two, the turbo lag is essentially cancelled out because you are constantly in the sweet spot of the rev range. So as they will say, you are always on boost. So once you get up and going and you're moving at speed, this vehicle drives beautifully. It's composed around the corners. the steering wheel is nicely weighted, and you get a nice pull. That is when you actually feel like you do have 260 or 250 Newton meters of torque, because you're just pulling yourself up the hill effortlessly. That is where the goodness ends, however, because once you are just trying to drive normally, like a normal human being, it takes some getting used to, as I will now demonstrate. But before I get into that, let's deal with one elephant in the room. While going up the hill, I heard boom, and this came up on the screen. Please wait, with a transmission behind it. And I'm like, please wait what? Well, it's not telling me anything. It's just saying, please wait. So I pulled over, I switched off, switched it back on, and the warning went away, and I continued up the hill. Afterwards, doing research, apparently this is a warning letting you know that the temperatures in the transmission are getting too high. So, brand new vehicle, going up to the Chancellor, a bit faster than most people would go up Chancellor, but after all, it's a brand new vehicle. It claims to have a super sport mode. How the hell is the transmission overheating? Now, because this vehicle essentially has a manual gearbox controlled by a computer, hence the dual clutch transmission terminology, you cannot creep. It's a non-creep transmission. What do I mean by that? I mean, like, if you're in traffic and the car moves ahead 3 feet, you can then creep 3 feet. It's either you're moving or you're not moving. This is because it's either the clutches are engaged and the vehicle is moving forward or reverse, or the clutches are disengaged and the vehicle is stationary. If you have partial engagement of the clutch, it tends to burn out, just like in a normal manual vehicle. So to combat this when going uphill, because you can't creep, the vehicle has a feature which most of these vehicles have. The vehicle will hold its position for about 4 to 5 seconds, giving you enough time to move your foot from the brake pedal to the accelerator pedal so you don't roll back and bump into anybody. After the 5-second mark, the vehicle will start rolling back, however. For example, I'm going to lift my foot off the brake now. It's going to hold, and then start rolling back. But where dual clutch transmissions struggle is on steep inclines when you are trying to gently inch forward. For example, I'm going to see, it's actually going back for a brief moment before it goes up. I despise dual clutch transmissions in everyday vehicles for that exact reason right there. If I wanted the headache of having to worry about rolling back into anybody, I would just buy a manual vehicle. The whole reason, the point, the purpose of having an automatic vehicle is to just mash and go. I don't want to have to worry about it may roll back, I can't creep in traffic, I may burn the clutch out. Especially in the land of traffic, which is Trinidad and Tobago. Around every corner you can face a traffic jam. This is not desirable. But the problems get even worse, because you can see the road is slightly damped and I'm stuck. I am literally trying to go up the hill and I'm getting tons of wheel spin. You may ask, doesn't the vehicle have traction control? It does. It says so. The traction control is clearly on, but still tons of wheel spin. As a matter of fact, as you can see right about here, increase speed or stop safely. Please wait. So we have a transmission overheating warning there, and all I did was go up a hill. All I did was go up that hill there. So imagine that you are going up a hill in a brand new vehicle that claims to have traction control and stability control and all kinds of safety features, and there you are spinning wheels and going backwards. Now imagine this happens going up Fort George. How dangerous would that be for an unskilled driver? Now you may ask yourself, TD47, but the road is damped. What do you expect? Well, while I was stuck there, I pulled aside to give the transmission time to cool down again, because clearly it was overheating. So I'm parked there, digging up in the settings to see if I can find where traction control is, to see if it's on or off, what the hell is taking place. I look to my right, and there is an older vehicle, just casually going up the hill with no wheel spin, none whatsoever. And it's not to say that the MG has some kind of cheap foreign used tires on it. No, it's actually Michelin. The vehicle has Michelin tires and is still struggling to go up a damped hill at an angle. Now you may say it's a skill issue. Well, I carried back this vehicle later on the day, and I brought my old vehicle, an old 2006 Toyota Fielder wagon that actually has cheap tires on it, high fly tires, and watch this. Not only am I able to go up the hill with no wheel spin, I am even able to stop on the hill, midway up the hill, and continue again with no wheel spin. Right around here is the right turn that the MG got stuck on and the transmission overheated. Let's see how the Toyota Fielder does. And I'm sure this characteristic comes down to that dual clutch transmission not being able to gently modulate acceleration. Now I did get some wheel spin around the second left turn, but notice how the feeler handled it. The left front wheel started to slip because I took the corner really tight. But because I have a torque converter, it's able to gently modulate the power, and I was able to power out of it and accelerate. Meanwhile, a newer vehicle with more technology and better tires is having difficulty going up a damped hill. Granted, if you were to accelerate faster from the bottom of the hill, sure you can make it up with no problem. But what if you can't? What if you are following people driving up slowly? What if you get stuck in traffic? What if you are just a slow driver and you didn't come up here with enough momentum? This was a really tough review to do because on the surface, I actually wanted to love this vehicle. It has a lot of cool features that many of its competitors, even in a higher price range, don't have. It's comfortable, it's fun to drive once you get up and moving, but there are just these minor inconveniences, these minor nitpicks that are actually a safety concern in certain situations that make me believe that this vehicle would be a better buy in Generation 2. This one is a test. This is the platform that they're going to test and work on all the bugs, but Generation 2 should be better. This still feels like an unrefined product, even though it has all these features. If I had to buy a new vehicle and it was my money being spent, I would make up my mind from the earlies. I'm going to keep it for 2 to 3 years max and then sell it before the problems start to develop, because we don't know how this vehicle is going to wear over time. We don't have a 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 year long track record to know, hey, is it a good vehicle long term or not? Everything feels good once it's new. And overheating warnings from a transmission on a new vehicle is never a good sign, especially when you're not taking it to rally crossing. I'm simply going up Chancellor. There's no reason in hell for the transmission to be overheating. So things like that make me believe it's not going to be as reliable long term. But buy it, enjoy it for 3 years, and then sell it. And also make up your mind that when you're going to sell it, you're not going to get anywhere near the amount of money you think you deserve for it.